Hey there, PolitiPeople. This is one of your co-hosts, Mike Booch, coming to let you know that if you have not listened to part 1 of our Okja review yet, please go back and listen to that from last week. And if you have, then thanks for coming back to the PolitiPop podcast to listen to part 2. Little update, we are now on several platforms: Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean. So if you can go to any of those and give us a rate and review, that would be awesome. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy this episode today.
Three, two, one.
Yeah, and the ALF, they have followers all over in the stands, and they've come forward to help them get Okja and escape. They're playing the recording of her being raped and abused on all the TVs. Like, they've completely taken over. And earlier in the film, they had mentioned that the NYPD had an arrangement with Miranda, and we see the police showing up. And they use excessive force against the ALF. The ALF are branded as terrorists, right? I think the FBI once said that eco-terrorists are the number one terrorist organizations in the world because they interfere with capitalism, with the food chain, and you could see it here. The ALF are just trying to get Okja away, and this police force is just brutal. Hitting them in the head with nightsticks and just really going to town on them.
Yeah, it's bad. And, we're not sure up until later on in the movie who survived and who didn't because they're being hit that hard. But still, the members of the ALF are adhering to this whole non-lethal, non-violence thing. Like they're taking the beatings or throwing stuff in the way as obstacles to stop the black chalk, the bad guys. But they're actually not doing any hitting. Not until one of the guys is hit by the black chalk, and then his boyfriend steps in and fucking knocks that dude out.
Yeah, then he starts going to town, and fighting back,
which I thought was awesome. My whole thing is honestly fuck it, if they're willing to use lethal force, and this isn't even just a vegan thing. If they're willing to use lethal force back. I don't give a fuck at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you have to save your own life, and you're clearly. I mean, we've talked about class struggle in almost every episode we've recorded together.
Yes.
And it's just another version of that here. The police taking advantage of a fairly peaceful protest. People who aren't actually using force against anyone, and they're either hurting them or even maybe killing them. And if you have to defend yourself, then maybe that's the only thing you can do.
Yeah, I mean, you know what else is lethal? The way that these animals are treated. And then in response to that, the way that the humans who have to work with these animals are also treated. We mentioned the exploitative labor before, which, you can find all this in our show notes and sources at the end of the episode. It's rare that we just say shit without backing it up in some way, shape, or form. So, come to our show notes, do your own research, whatever. And we have contact info at the end as well. So if you want to just call us out on our bullshit, if you think that's what it is, we're open for that dialogue too. So here's the next step in Mija's evolution as a superpowered character. She's
You're really on this.
I am. They get her, Okja, and Jay onto this truck, but unfortunately the black chalk comes, uses a hook and rope, and gets them out of there. Once again, out of a moving truck, Mija falls and survives. Just saying.
She is very injured, though, because Jay has to, pull her out of the way of the truck.
Yeah, they need time for her healing factor to kick in.
She's X-23. This is a cool part, too, because we find out that the truck is being driven by Kay, who's come to rescue them and help them out, and he saves Jay and Mija.
And this kind of goes back to that thing I was saying, even if you fall off the wagon accidentally, you can still get back on. He made a mistake, but he was still able to come and continue doing the right thing after that. So if you have, there is space to slip up, because even if you just like eat plant-based 6 days out of the week and on the 7th day you fucking go apeshit, which is kind of what my fiance does. You're still, that's 6 days that you're not contributing to all of the negative effects of factory farming.
Yeah, it's why Meatless Mondays started,
Yes.
right? Like Meatless Monday is a huge thing because the whole world knows how much you can help the environment, the planet, just by choosing not to eat meat one day out of the week.
One day, just a huge difference. Just like how one day is all it took for Okja to get PTSD.
Yeah.
So we see that they're going right to the source of the problem right now. And
there's a comical part here too, because I think Jay had sent the K translation is sacred, and K got that tattooed on his arm or like engraved on his arm, which was kind of funny.
That was nice. And I just love the way like he's yelling at the nurse to take care of them, and not the way he's yelling at the nurse, but like he just has such a mannerism about him that's hilarious, and it's really fun to see that because normally we've seen him in The Walking Dead. We really haven't gotten to see a lot of his other comedy chops because it's pretty much been drama and a little bit of humor.
Yeah, it's a good role for him.
So, speaking of roles, they roll on up to the slaughterhouse where Meech is going to try and find Okja in a sea of super pigs. Like this is when it gets really bad. Like you see all of these super pigs that are there, and they're just being moved into the slaughter. And I believe the reasoning was because Tilda Swinton's character Lucy gives up control of what's happening in Mirando to, I want to say, Nancy. Is that her sister's name?
Maybe. Yes, Nancy. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep, it's definitely Nancy.
Okay, cool.
Good job.
I do my best, which isn't much. So once again, Nancy, she's the colder of the two. She's like, move all the super pigs into production right now. Blah blah blah. And I don't remember exactly what the reasoning was. They probably went into it, but I was still very much
well, all the bad publicity from the video that was leaked from the rape of Okja and the abuse she suffered. They realized all this marketing bullshit wasn't going to work, and she said, "Let's just screw the marketing. Let's just go straight to the butchering." And her assistant says, "Are you sure they'll eat it?" And she goes, "If it's cheap, they'll eat it."
That's a really good point. And feeding into the whole, just it is a class thing as well. We saw it in Parasite that they ate junk food when they were poor, and we see it in real life too. That and it'll come up at the end of the episode when I answer one of the questions. Like, unfortunately, healthier food is more expensive
to a degree, though, because you can go to a supermarket, you can get rice, beans, lentils, broccoli, bananas. Like, you can get produce cheap. When you start getting those vegan alternatives is where it gets expensive.
Oh yeah.
We know that firsthand.
Yeah,
it's nice to splurge, but
it's very true. But yeah, and also Nancy says a little later on, she goes like, "Oh, this part of the super pig is for the rich people. This part's for these people. Mexicans love the feed, of course." Like, just really fucked up shit. Like, people are being exploited and don't even know about it. Like, just in the food they eat. But what happens a little before that is Mija goes into the slaughterhouse and gets a look at how everything's done. And these are images taken directly out of slaughterhouse videos. Look it up yourself if that's what you want to do.
Well, to get this as accurate as possible, Bong Joon-ho, he watched a bunch of slaughterhouse videos, and then him and the producer actually went to a slaughterhouse in Colorado to experience it firsthand. And it was so devastating. They actually went vegan for the remainder of the production. Because he said the smell of death was so intense, it followed him back to New York where they were shooting the movie.
Wow. That is intense.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Shuddering at that.
But he was not vegan beforehand. He just wanted to be as accurate as possible. He wanted to show the conditions.
And that's a big move too, because this movie is pretty straightforward. Like you said, they don't paint people who eat meat as the devil. But they do definitely bring up that this corporation is taking advantage of so many people to continue to build on a fortune that doesn't need building on anymore.
No, it doesn't, and as Mija goes through the slaughterhouse and she's trying to find Okja, she sees these super pigs being, cut in half, being, dragged on a hook. She sees them being shot in the head. And then Okja's coming up next. And, obviously she wants to do anything she can to save Okja, and she's trying to stop the man who's going to shoot her by showing a picture of her with Okja as a baby.
Yeah.
And the guy stops, it definitely stops him. It speaks to him for a minute. And this is where Tilda Swinton comes in, right, with her entourage.
Yes, not less evil Tilda Swinton, but more evil Tilda Swinton.
More evil Tilda Swinton.
Just as
the most evil Tilda Swinton.
The darkest Tilda. Just as Okja's about to get Javier Bardem'd from No Country for Old Men.
And Mija and J&K, they're like, please don't do this. Like, you have enough money. Like, why are you trying to kill Okja? And she just says, it's a business. Like, it's not a personal thing. But at the end of the day, she's here to make money. And that's what it's all about with these kind of corporations. And she says, we can only sell the dead ones.
That was a good point.
It's the only ones we can sell.
That was a really good point.
Yeah, I agree.
Which she finds out that's not necessarily the case as the movie progresses.
Yeah. She also says it's all edible except for the squeal, which I thought was a great line.
Really? Because
I think that idea that if people could see it, if they could hear it, they could see, what was happening, maybe they wouldn't want to buy this meat. But, they don't. They just get the meat and that's it. And they buy it and they eat it and it's over with.
Yeah, and that moment with the picture, that really got me too, because that's Okja as an adorable like little pup, yeah, and this little girl, and I don't want to say like you can see animals as people and stuff like that, because obviously they're not people, we're people, but just once again think about that relationship you have with an animal, or maybe you've had with several animals. Maybe you love to ride horses. Maybe, you've had multiple pets. And just know that anybody can have that relationship with any of the livestock we regularly slaughter for meat.
I mean, my personal perspective is that animals are more pure than humans. You no matter what kind of day you're having, you can come home to your pet and they're going to love you equally. People don't do that. And I think Okja showed that kind of love to Mija through the 10 years they were together. So it's a special bond.
Really. So yeah, they didn't really go into the fact that these workers might be traumatized from the work they're doing. But what was an interesting move, they brought in the amazing Giancarlo Esposito for this little character role here. And he plays such a good villain. He gives great villain, Giancarlo.
Yeah.
He's from Breaking Bad, Mandalorian. He ends up, he's speaking Spanish to the laborers there because most likely this is undocumented labor that they're using because, it's cheap. It's all about money and, they don't care who they're hurting in the process.
Yeah, I mean, we see several workers and they're all Hispanic, right? None of them are speaking English. They're talking to Mija in Spanish, So yeah, that's a great point.
I think so. To quote you from before.
I agree.
I agree. And actually, let's just use that to go back to where we're at with COVID-19 and the meat shortage. I remember I was watching on the news, Trump, he was like, oh, well, because how he has to exaggerate everything, right? He's like, the meat corporate, the meat factories, they're very clean right now, cleaner than they've ever been before, blah, 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 like cleaner than they were. And I'm like, dude, you fucking idiot. Like in his own way, he just told everybody how unsanitary the process is.
Yep.
He was like, oh, they're cleaner than they were before. Like, motherfucker, they weren't clean before? What are you talking about? Like,
I know. I'm like, what kind of conditions are we talking about here,
And so Okja's about to get domed pretty hard by the Javier Bardem gun. And Mija speaks the only language that Mirando knows. And she takes out that solid gold pig, slides it across the floor, and says, I want to use this pig to buy Okja. And Nancy agrees.
Yeah, she does. She said she not only agrees, but she says, "Let's make sure they get home. They both get home safely." Like all of a sudden, like, wow, that's a client. Let's take care of them. Like she just switches gears so quickly.
Yeah, and then like finds out, guess what? There is money in the selling of live versions of these super pigs.
Yeah, I mean, I think the message that Bong Joon-ho is trying to get across here isn't, go vegan or anything like that, but that these major corporations that run our country, our world, that have a big hand in the meat and dairy industry, they are trying to make money, and life does not matter to them. Animal life, human life, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Whatever will make them money. So if they have to sell dead animals or a plant-based product or whatever it is, however they can make the most money, they will do it.
Which is why, by living a plant-based lifestyle, you can actually influence this. Like right now, like we're at a much different spot than we were 3 years ago when you and I went vegan. Like we have companies major, Burger King has the Impossible Burger. White Castle has the Impossible Burger. A bunch of places have the Beyond Burger. They're coming up. They're adopting like real meat substitutes and real dairy substitutes to reach a larger base of clientele, of customers. So
I mean, you can go to almost any restaurant. They will have a veggie burger, a Beyond Burger. They'll have something, and there's just so many products coming out. You can go anywhere and find a vegan alternative. And I think it just goes to show just how much that lifestyle is on the rise, and how much we can make a difference in these companies. I mean, they're pouring so much money into vegan food.
And given enough time, who's to say that if there's just no longer a market for meat, these corporations won't just shift their product?
I think they absolutely would. That they don't care. They do not care. They just want to make the money. So if that is where the money is to be made in vegan products, that's where they're going to go.
Speaking of going, Mija is going home now. She's on her way out, and she's walking with Okja, and it's really another bittersweet moment that Bong Joon-ho is so great at delivering. We see that she still gets to have her super pig, her friend, but there are thousands of other super pigs that are ready to go to the slaughter in the same place.
Yeah, they don't have a Mija. They don't have anyone that cares about them, that will help them. This is the moment that actually broke me.
Was this it?
I was, oh man, at both times. Like I've seen the movie twice, and it just fucking destroyed me.
Tell me about it.
So Mija and Okja are leaving. They're being escorted out. They're going home, and there's a family of super pigs, and there's a little baby one. They're walking along the electric fence, and the parents of this baby super pig actually, they push the electric fence up, and they roll out the baby to Okja and Mija. And, they're basically asking them to take the baby to safety because they know they're going to die. They can hear the screams inside the slaughterhouse. They know what's coming. And again, it shows the intelligence of them.
Yeah, they're not stupid.
They know they can't. No, they can't save themselves, but maybe they can save this child. And I think Okja actually puts the child in her mouth,
yes,
so that the guards won't see it. And they walk along, and the parents are walking along on the other side of the electric fence watching them. And it's this really sad moment where, they're never going to see them again. Yeah. They're going to be butchered, but at least they know their child is safe.
Yeah, that really was, that was a rough moment. And, let's go back to that idea of how do you legitimize an animal's existence? Now, let's say it's not by their intelligence. Is it now by their capacity to love? Because, animals do have children, and animals do have connections to those children. If you consider that love or not, I guess that's on you. But, the connections we have to each other we called love, when in fact, guess what? They're also fucking chemical reactions that are built into us over years of evolution and survival. So, the animals are kind of right there with us, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, you ask any human parent, just about any human parent who's a decent human parent, they will do anything for their child. Most of them would die for their child.
Yes.
And we see that right here, and it's like, what separates us? What really separates us? We would both die for our child. That shows everything right there. Like, aren't they worthy of living?
In this moment, I also noted, like, is saving one enough? And then, of course, there was another one that they were able to save. But, like, is that enough? And it just kind of, I guess, makes you think, right? Like, if I go vegan, but my entire family doesn't, or I go plant-based for several days a week and still eat meat on other days, like, is it enough? Well, guess what? To Mija, it is.
It is, yeah. And, she goes home with Okja and this other little super pig. And, they find happiness again, right? Like, they're living on the mountain, and now they're raising this little baby who's very playful, and you see it jumping into the water and running around with food. And, it's a little bit of happiness at the end of this really long, sad journey.
And Mija is not upset at her grandpa at all, it seems. So
she's not upset at her grandpa. Listen, he did give her the golden pig that saved Okja, so
she stole it. But yes, technically he did give it to her and put it in her possession before that. Now, I have a question for you. Do you think Mija is still going to eat animals after this whole thing is up?
That is a really interesting question. I don't know. I would say, I would say no. For me, like, going to that slaughterhouse, seeing what happened to these animals, I would say no. I would want to fight that corporate greed and this horrible, horrible stuff. But Bong Joon-ho, I think I mentioned earlier, he actually went vegan when he went to the slaughterhouse, right?
Yes, yeah.
And
you mentioned that.
He said, so I actually have a quote here from him, and it was when he went back to Korea. He said, I'm from South Korea, and Korea is a barbecue paradise. He points out even Mija's favorite food is chicken stew, if you'll notice. What I did want to oppose is how tragic it is to have animals be part of this capitalistic mass production system. For them, every day is a Holocaust. Wow. He did wind up going back and eating meat. But I think he's more aware of the effects of the meat industry. Last I heard, he's actually a pescatarian now, as he's trying to give up meat. He definitely reduces his consumption of it. But, like he said, it's this capitalistic mass production system. This is what it's all about. And, I don't know. People like him still found a way to eat meat afterwards. So maybe Mija will. But I think her connection to Okja and the things she saw probably changed her.
I think she actually goes pescatarian. That was my assumption.
I could see that. Absolutely. I think, that makes sense. A lot of people do. That's, it's a little different for them to eat fish.
Yeah, like, we're a little more able to relate to mammals, I guess, but not necessarily sea life.
Yep.
For me, I just actually couldn't stand seafood that, like, at all. So
yeah, same.
Yeah, so it was that was nothing for I'd rather be vegan than pescatarian, even if given the option.
Yep, same.
Okay, so we also had the post credits moment, which is really funny. You watched it this time, right?
I watched it both times actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I rewatched it this time too.
So yeah, we see that despite them trying to do the right thing, they still technically broke the law. So they were in jail. Both Jay and Kay, they make their way out of jail, and they're on this bus. You find that their whole crew from before is still alive, which is awesome.
Yeah, which is great.
And not only are they still alive, but they have one new member.
Yeah, he's the truck driver from much earlier in the film that had been transporting Okja originally to the airport. And he was hilarious. He was like, he basically was like, fuck this corporation. Like, I don't like working for them. I'm quitting anyway. He started a website called like
MirandoIsFuck.com.
Yeah, MirandoIsFuck.com.
It was awesome.
And he was hilarious.
And what's so funny is, like, toward the earlier part of the film, we first get introduced to him. He seems so apathetic to everything, and he's not like really talkative at all. But he's super talkative now. Like, you can't get him to shut up.
Yeah, exactly. He loves to talk. That's all he wants to do. I guess he's energized, excited about something.
Yeah, I think so. Now that he's found like something to actually commit himself to.
Well, he made a comment, right, when all this was going down, when the Animal Liberation Front was taking Okja, and his boss told him to chase after them. And he said, he kept asking him, do you even have like your license? And he's like, I have my license, but I don't have workers' comp. So it just goes to show like this corporation probably didn't treat their employees very well. And I think that's a big part of why he makes this decision.
Damn straight. And this group is still fighting the power. It's awesome. They explain the next mission they're gonna do. So even though like me just back home doing her thing, and she kind of has this moment where she does wonder, and they don't tell you that she does, but you just kind of know. Like she looks at her super pigs that are there with her right now back home, but she can't really stop thinking about the other ones that she saw. But luckily the ALF is still out there fighting the good fight, and as they approach this destination to do the job, the mission, they start putting on their ski masks one by one, and everyone on the bus is putting on their ski masks except this old woman who's looking around like, what the fuck is going on? And then at the end they give the mask to the woman and she takes it, and that's the final scene. That's the post-credit scene. I love that.
There's always like a weird dark humor to Bong Joon-ho's films, and I definitely see it here, which was funny. It kind of leaves you on like a funny, happy note.
It really does. So we're going to move on to the question and answer portion of this podcast. I cast out a net earlier asking people on social media what their questions about veganism were. And I want to tackle them with you. Are you down for this Q&A, Ty?
I am down. I also threw the question out and got a couple of responses, so I will put them into the mix as well.
Awesome. So I'll read one of mine first. I said, what are some questions you have about veganism? And my friend Tim, fellow disc golfer, by the way, he said, are you hungry all the time? My answer is, I have a joke answer and I have a real answer. My joke answer is yes, but that's just because of the weed. But and also because I use food to fill a void that is left from childhood. But no, on the real, as far as like eating vegan food goes, I'm not hungry all the time at all. Like, we get a few similar questions here, so we'll just browse by them later. But no, I'm not hungry all the time. I've found a diet that works for me, and I think if you saw me in person, you'd be like, yeah, this guy eats. He's not hungry all the time.
Yeah, I think it depends what you eat. If you're going to eat just bowls of cereal and potato chips, you're probably not going to be satisfied. But if you're eating like a really balanced meal, it can be pretty filling. You do have to eat a little bit extra vegetables, but I think it balances out because the veggies aren't so bad for you. So, I find myself very full. I usually don't even finish my dinner in one sitting. I usually have to save some of it for another sitting. So more than ever, I think I am definitely satisfied and not that hungry when I eat.
There you go. So that's your answer, Tim. What's one of your questions, Ty?
So I threw out a little bit of a different question. It was similar, but I put, hey all, I'm curious, what are some questions you have about veganism? And for vegan friends, what are some common questions you get? So one of my friends, Zach, said, do you miss meat? No, I can't imagine ever going back, and there are good enough substitutes these days to combat cravings, which I definitely agree with. I do not miss meat at all. I can't ever picture myself eating meat again. I actually went to Peru. I guess it's going on 2 years now. And a lot of people told me, oh, they're known for their meat. You got to have meat while you're there. Nope, I didn't find myself missing it at all. There was a ton of great restaurants that had plenty of vegetables and vegan food. And there's so many, like the Impossible Burger, the Beyond Burger, even like Trader Joe's and Whole Foods brand foods have like chicken and all kinds of substitutes. I never find myself missing meat.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of a trick question too, so I'll pose the whole, well, why do you guys try to make it look like it's meat? Blah, blah, blah. You must miss meat. Blah, blah, blah. Like, my answer to that is just, when I was eating meat, I loved the texture and the taste of that thing. If I can still have a similar texture and taste without all of the gross shit that comes with it and without it being dead flesh, then I'll just do that.
Exactly. Like, we like the flavor of it. We didn't stop because we didn't like it.
And I'd say for the most part, it is kind of a social thing for me too. Like, when you really think about it, how many foods do you relate to good memories in your life? How many times do you go out with friends and it's to eat all the time? Like, that's the part that I try to have some normalcy for. But like you said, with all of the substitutes they have now, it's very easy for me to go to a barbecue and bring my own stuff and still enjoy it just as much.
Yeah, and I think it's great what you said about finding those memories. One of my friends, Craig, he said that to me. He said, when I eat a burger, I remember, good memories growing up. I remember, going to McDonald's and getting a Big Mac, and now I can have it as a plant-based burger. And he said to me, when someone says, are you going to eat a burger? This is what I think of, not the animal flesh. This is my burger. That's what it is to me. So, I think, yeah, you can get those memories from a lot of these plant-based alternatives.
Yeah, there's no missing the meat. I will admit, it's weird, but sometimes I have dreams about eating meat, and I feel so fucked up in the dreams because I'm like, oh my God, I ate meat. Like, it's so funny too, because like in a real life situation, it just would never and has never happened. That I'm like, oh fuck, like I accidentally ate a rack of ribs. Like, but dreams are ridiculous. And then when I wake up, like I'm like, oh, like I don't even want it. I don't want that. Maybe something in my subconscious still relates to it. But like I think that's more of a fear than anything else, like that I'll accidentally eat something.
That's interesting. I've never had that, to be honest. I never get the cravings. I think it's because I'm eating more flavorful food than I've ever had before.
That's a good point. That's true. So my friend Goldie, she says, do vegans have oral sex? It's an animal byproduct. So I can't answer for every vegan, but what I can say is that this vegan does have oral sex and it's considered cruelty free. So yeah, I'm with it.
I like that. So one of my friends, Max, said that he went vegan for 4 years once. And when he got drunk, he got 2 Big Macs and it was the best burger in his life. It's pretty sad, but he thinks that he always wanted to have meat for those 4 years and finally did it and found it fully satisfying. He's not saying McDonald's is good or anything, but he prefers to eat his own stuff. So, I don't know. I feel like I don't get those cravings. I can't picture myself doing that. I'm going on a little over 3 years now as a vegan. I don't have those meat cravings, so I don't picture myself doing that. Listen, it's not for everybody. I've heard of people who've gone vegan and they get those cravings and their body's telling them that that's what they want. I'm not going to argue with that. You do what you want to do. But for me, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to avoid those cravings is to just educate yourself as much as possible. Because, like, if you've ever done a diet or something, you always have a moment in your diet where you can cheat a little. You know what I mean? Oh, I'll have a cheat day. I'll break it. I'll grab this. I'll grab that. For me, at least, with veganism, there was no cheat day. And there didn't have to be. I didn't want those things because I had educated myself. Like, I literally rewired my brain to believe that meat was gross.
Yep, you have to.
Yeah, which it is. And so it's like saying, like, all right, like, I know I'm not eating carbs, but I really want that hunk of dog shit on the ground. Like, that's the equivalent right there.
I think it's really important to eat the right foods, Like, I feel like so many people when they first go vegan, they think eating, like, French fries and potato chips and, like, that's it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't know, or, like, pasta. They're, like, very simple, boring food. Like, once you, like, really learn, like, all that you can make. I mean, I literally was the pickiest eater ever, and now I eat so much flavorful food. I eat different cuisines from around the world. I'll eat Japanese food now. I'll eat Peruvian food, Salvadorian food, Korean food, Italian food. You name it. Like, I will give it a try. And there's just so much, like, flavor to be had if you just know, like, what you're eating. And I think a big part of that can be, like, being willing to cook and learn, or knowing someone that can cook that stuff for you. But if you're willing to, my girlfriend's an amazing cook, so I'm very lucky. And her family all great cooks. But, like, if you put the time into it, you can really find some delicious, satisfying food.
Yeah, on my end, like, I love food. Even without adding meat to every meal, food I still have a borderline unhealthy relationship with. Like, I work my entire day around what I'm going to eat. So having not delicious food, like having gross food, just isn't an option for me. And more times than none, I will find better stuff in my kitchen than I'll find in a lot of restaurants, unless they're vegan specific. But I've become just so much of a better cook in switching to a plant-based diet. Like I've just expanded my boundaries in the culinary arts, if you will. So my friend Michael, I'm not sure if he wants me to use his last name. Mike, you know who you are. We both like Dragon Ball Z. He said, what are some low-calorie vegan protein sources? And then our friend from high school, Amanda, said, and to add to that, what protein sources would you recommend outside of tofu? So, I'm not sure if you've seen me or not, but I might not be the person to go to for low-calorie anything. When I first did go vegan, I lost 40 pounds but the main reason is because A, I was eating complete trash before I made the change. Like, it was a very drastic shock to my body. And B, because I didn't know what you could eat. So I was keeping a very limited diet. Luckily, it wasn't, French fries, potato chips, and cereal all the time. But I basically just made my own bean patties, like, my own bean burgers, and that was it. That was all I ate. Now I eat a lot of high calorie food. But my opinion would be, and if you can't think of anything off the top of your head after I'm done, but my opinion would just be, Google it, Google low calorie vegan protein sources. And to Francis or Amanda's question, I'm not sure what she wants to go by. What protein sources would I recommend outside of tofu? Everything. Tempeh, seitan, and those are just like kind of substitutes a little bit. Personally, my go-to is beans. I love beans, and I love using chickpeas and everything I can get my hands on. Beans are a huge protein source, and you find out that pretty much everything has protein in it to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, I think beans and legumes are a huge way to get protein. You can get them from peanuts, soy, quinoa, edamame, chickpeas, lentils, split peas. Like you said, seitan. There's a lot of options. So yeah, I think you get beans and veggies. You can get plenty of protein, especially if you're eating the correct portions and the right amount throughout your day. You'll have no issue.
Do you want to do one of your questions now?
Yeah. So I've got. Did you notice any health benefits after switching, like more energy, more awareness, or less sickness? So you said you lost a bunch of weight. I actually lost a bunch of weight as well. Like immediately after going vegan, I lost about 30 pounds. Again, it was a shock to my system as well. I couldn't believe the weight was just dropping off. I was not exercising or anything like that. It was pretty shocking. I also, I'm sure you can attest to this, I was sick a lot throughout my life. I got a lot of sinus infections, strep throat, you name it. I was always out sick from school for most of my life. The last 3 years, I've been fairly healthy. I really don't get a lot of colds or sinus infections, maybe like one a year, if that. So whether that's from that or not, I don't know, but it definitely seems to have helped my immune system really get bolstered a little bit.
Yeah, I think that one of the first things I noticed was that my mental status improved. And at the time, I attributed it to this kind of hippie fantasy of like, well, I'm not putting negative things into my body, and therefore I have a positive mindset, which, may very well have been true. Then it turns out that there's depression. That's also a thing. But that's that's unrelated to the whole veganism thing. But even after I started gaining that weight back, I didn't gain all of it back, but even after I started gaining a lot of it back, I was like, oh geez, French fries are fucking vegan? Great. Oh, they have a vegan version of this? Let me have that. They have vegan mac and cheese? Let me eat that. Even after I gained it back, I went to the doctor for a physical, the first physical I've had in years, and they were like, no, your cholesterol is really healthy, you're at a really good place. And I'm like, oh shit, other than just being physically fat, everything else is fine.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same thing. My doctor told me I have to lose weight, but my cholesterol is great. My blood pressure is great. I mean, it's pretty wild. And I did have the same kind of clarity, mental clarity. You start to kind of see the world a little differently. I attest a lot of the way I can intelligently think about things now to definitely going to the vegan diet and being able to just have a clearer head. And I also just want to point out that was from Mickey, that question. I'm not sure if I said that, but thank you, Mickey.
Ooh, Mickey has one on mine too, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So this is from Sam. She says, What is the vegan status of white sugar and liquid smoke? I've been told for years white sugar isn't vegan because of bone in the filtration process or ash from animal bone as a whitener. A lot of meat-free dishes also use liquid smoke a lot to create a sense of savory umami. I was told in culinary school that liquid smoke is made from washing the gunk that builds up on the inside of a smoker. Since industrial smokers process meat, is that gunk considered vegan? What do you think, Ty?
I'll be honest, I don't know much about liquid smoke, but yeah, I mean, you know, if you have a shared grill, right, with a product that some people don't consider it vegan then because it's touching meat, you know, on the grill. So I guess you could consider that not vegan, yeah.
So you were the first one to tell me about this whole the white sugar and white flour.
Yeah, sugar, yep. It's because of the bone char.
So that is not considered vegan because of the way it's processed.
That's correct. But I have heard that organic sugar is vegan.
Oh, okay. So that's good to know.
Yep, organic sugar and brown sugar, like any other sugar version, but not white sugar, just plain white sugar.
And then she also followed up with the white sugar question also leads to what candy bars are vegan. Lecithin, a common emulsifier in tons of processed food, is typically made from eggs. Great question. When I look at my stuff, I just look up to see if it has soy lecithin in it. So if it says soy lecithin, I'm taking it as vegan. You know, and honestly, like candy bars and stuff, I just see if it says vegan on it, or I'll do a quick check through. There is also the argument of if it's processed on equipment that contains, you know, eggs and dairy, like, is that something you want to eat? I think that that's a choice that you can make for yourself. There are hardcore vegans who will not eat anything that says like may contain or is processed on shared equipment. I am not one of those vegans. I do try to live realistically, and you know, for me it's not financially feasible to always eat things that I know are 100 like comfort foods that I know 100% don't have any interaction with animal products whatsoever. You know, I wish I could say I was, but that's just not where I'm at in life.
I'm in the same boat. You know, I think you got to pick your battles a little bit, and you know, I'm choosing not to eat meat or dairy. And you know, if it's on shared equipment, sometimes you gotta decide if it's worth having that product or not being able to find an alternative that you can afford or that's accessible to you. So. You know, I usually will still partake in those products, but you know, there's all different levels, and each person is unique in their viewpoint on that.
What's your next question?
All right, I have from Andrea. Where do you get your protein? Beans, legumes, and believe it or not, veggies. So again, similar question of what you had. But yeah, beans, legumes, veggies give you plenty of protein. And somebody replied, that's a classic meat industry lie. So I think, you know, it's common for a lot of people who don't understand veganism or the plant-based diet to be like, well, you can't get protein, you know, you have to get it from meat. And that's not accurate. A lot of animals get their protein from the food that they eat, sometimes being vegetables. So, you know, which then gets passed on to us anyway. So, you know, it's not just all from meat.
Yeah, just cut out the middleman and eat the same stuff that they're eating to get their protein from.
Yep, that's it.
So Mickey commented on mine as well and said, when you order or make something to eat, how nervous are you that you're unknowingly having some unadvertised animal product? You know, like you said before, you have to pick your battles. You have to know what you're eating. There are times, basically the time that I'm most nervous about it is when I would go out to eat at a restaurant or something. Sometimes I don't want to inconvenience the servers, by asking for every single item that's in whatever they're serving. Sometimes I'll go by a rule of thumb, honestly. Like I'll be like, all right, on the most part, you know, like bagels are going to be made with yeast and stuff like that. You know, and I'll know like what bagels are sometimes made with whey, which I just won't get that kind. But, you know, I usually go with like a rule of thumb, like, all right, 90% of this item is usually made without any animal products. You know, I'll order this item, or I'll ask them like, is it on a shared grill? Can you make it with oil instead of making it with butter? That kind of thing. But you know, it is something that we do get nervous about, or at least I do. I've known close friends who, like, I'm like, all right, let's go to a Chinese place. And they're like, well, some Chinese places use fish oil. And I'm like, well, I worked at a Chinese place. We use canola oil, so I'm like, fuck, like you're really going to ruin everyone's day because this place might use fish oil. Like, but once again, that's their belief system. Who am I to say that they're being too extreme when I'm considered extreme by others?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It's definitely something in the back of my mind. I do a lot of pre-planning. If I'm going to be going out to a restaurant, I will try to look up the menu online, pick out what I can have ahead of time, or I'll use a lot of different apps like Happy Cow to find places that have vegan options so that I don't have to worry when I go someplace. And sometimes, I might just avoid a place like Burger King. I've heard, there's a shared grill. So, I tried it a few times and decided maybe I don't need to eat from there. So I haven't been there in a while to get the Impossible Burger for that reason. So, it's something you have to be worried about. It could be tough. When I mentioned going to Peru, I don't speak Spanish. So that was a kind of a scary thing as I'm trying to make sure things are vegan. And, my girlfriend's trying to translate, but sometimes it's a little hard to remember what specific words, translate for her. So, there's a day where I was by myself. So I was walking around asking for, vegetarian food. I'm going to have vegetarian food, like just trying to find a place that had it. And I did. Wow. Yeah, you definitely, I know for a fact now that there's probably 2 items I had that had some dairy in it. But at the time, I wasn't able to get a clear answer and I thought that I wasn't. So, it happens, but you try to do the best you can.
And even then, like, at least it wasn't like, oh, you're eating some rice and, oh, crap, I accidentally ate an entire rotisserie chicken. Like,
yeah, exactly. It's like, all right, this roll you had might have had some butter in it. That sucks. I wouldn't openly try to do that, but, I did the best I could and thought I made the right choice, but obviously I didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Is your question is up next?
I don't have any, so if you
let's
want to
do
read
this
some of your questions, or you could just
go.
keep going.
All right, my friend SH. Oh, I forgot her actual full first name because I met her through a Facebook group. Whatever, we don't know each other in person. Do alternate protein sources fill you the same way? Sounds sexual, but yeah, they absolutely do. Absolutely. It's interesting. This protein question gets brought up a lot. Like protein is considered the most important resource ever, but it's like, you do have people who eat food that like has no protein. Like they'll eat pizza all day and drink soda or whatever. But then ask you like, oh, like how do you get your protein? Blah blah blah. Like like that wasn't really important to you before. But it is interesting how the protein question keeps coming up. Like, do you ask somebody, oh, how do you get your potassium? How do you get your calcium? Like,
yeah, no, I agree. But I do find, I could have a plate of rice and beans and it can fill me right up. So absolutely, like you find some filling protein sources, which can be not even alternate vegan products. It could just be like, lentils and beans and stuff. I find that stuff very filling.
Yeah, let me bring it back to the chickpeas real quick. So they make vegan mayonnaise now. Hellmann's makes vegan mayonnaise now. I think it's probably one of the cheapest on the market if you're going for that. What I'll do is I'll take some of that Hellmann's mayonnaise. I'll mash up some chickpeas with a fork. I'll throw in some cumin and whatever other spices I want, mix it all together, and now I have tuna fish sandwich. Like that was my favorite thing. One of my favorite things before I went vegan. So put that on some toast and yeah, like a chickpea tuna sandwich will fill you up absolutely. But also like don't think about a balanced meal too. Like it's not just about the alternate protein sources. It's about what else you're eating with the meal. What kind of carbs are you eating? What kind of vegetables are you eating? Am I 100% aware of a balanced diet every time I eat? Fuck no, I'm not. I want to eat good tasting food. And, but that's not about the whole vegan thing. It's about, my lifestyle and where I stand with my dietary habits. So the next question is from Derek. He says, when do you get your superpowers, like in Scott Pilgrim versus the World? There's this awesome scene in Scott Pilgrim where Michael Cera's taken on Brandon Routh, and Brandon Routh has psychic powers because he is a vegan, and that makes him better than everyone else. As you and I attested, you get your vegan superpowers pretty soon in. Like the way you feel about life is just completely different. Like you do kind of feel like a better person, not better than anybody else necessarily, but better than when you
your
first
previous version of yourself, right? Like you just feel like a better version of you, the best version of you. And I actually, the day that I stopped craving cheese, I was able to start flying. So just a side note.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that whole levitation thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that was big. I remember you told me you were like, oh, just make sure you get a lot of winter coats because what people don't take into account is the speed of flight and the altitude. It actually gets very cold. So,
yeah, my lungs are great now though. So,
all right, nice. So yeah, you get your superpowers pretty soon. Britt, she says, does it make you constipated or do you drop normal bombs? So it definitely doesn't make you constipated. That's more something I've heard of with dairy. Like if you eat a lot of cheese, you will not be able to shit. You'll get constipated from that. But no, I drop normal bombs. Now, what I will say, at least in my experience, is you do have to be aware of what you're eating. Like if you're eating food that has actual substance to it, you're going to have some solid, thick dookies, But if you are, if you're eating like lots of loose stuff, like it's going to come out. It'll come out. Don't worry. It'll come out, but it won't really be solid. So it just depends on, what kind of diet you have. What about you? How are you push a grumpy?
I do feel overall my stool is more regular. If that helps. I feel like I go more than I used to. So I think the dairy was definitely constipating me more than I realized.
And so now you're like shitting every 10 minutes.
I wouldn't say that much, but I'm going a couple times a day and I'm like, man, it feels good to drop a grumpy.
And they're healthy ones too. Like they had the whole squatty potty thing. I just use a step stool that I have in my house and I just, unfold that bad boy in front of the toilet. Like you get the right angle to not restrict your bowels, and you just let like all the natural fiber that's in the plant-based foods you're eating just flush you out. It's a good time.
It really is.
So my friend Kirk says, how did you get over the absence of dairy products? You start this one off, Ty.
So I think just stopping eating it, like I mentioned, I was really addicted to cheese. So, just like any other addiction, after a certain amount of time, you stop craving it, So I was able to break those cravings by not eating it. And I think they've found some really good alternatives. I think there's some really great milk substitutes. Almond milk is solid. I love oat milk. I think oat milk is out of this world good. There's a lot of better vegan cheese alternatives now. Chow cheese is really good. Daya's even stepped up their game. Follow Your Heart. There's some great ones out there. So if I'm looking for like a vegan grilled cheese once in a while or something, I can find a really good one. There's some awesome ones out there.
Seriously. When I first went vegan, when you and I both did, they didn't really have a lot of great cheese products. Like they had the cheese products out there, but they didn't melt the same. And, you never really think about it, but that is the selling point of cheese. Like, how does this cheese melt? And the alternatives they had were really garbage. So, I went like a year without a grilled cheese, but when I finally found a cheese that melted and was good, like, oh man, it changed everything. And I will say, like, once again, once you just convince yourself that certain items are gross, once you know that they're gross, it's not really a matter of convincing yourself. It's a lot easier to not partake in them. And especially when you realize, like, Ty, you brought up almond milk and oat milk substitutes. Like, yet people think that's unnatural because they're used to drinking milk from other animals, but that's the most unnatural thing you can do. We're made to drink milk from our mothers when we're infants, and that's it. Like like you said before, a cow's milk is made to turn a calf, into what a full-grown cow within a year.
If you're about all the hormones and stuff in that, and do you really want that in your body?
Yeah, humans are not meant to drink that. They're just not. They're not meant to eat that, and it is a real shame because we have figured out ways to make incredible cheeses, right? Like there's so many great dairy products out on the market, or great tasting, I should say, but where they come from is really terrible. So now we're at a point where vegan science, as I'll call it, has been able to replicate that pretty well. I do have friends that, like, I'll make food for them, and once in a while they'll tell me, like, oh, well, this isn't exactly, like a pizza, or this doesn't taste exactly. But I'll be honest, like at this point, I don't really remember what that stuff tastes like anyway. And I like it,
Yeah, definitely.
All right, my friend Sadie Stormborn, she is a cosplayer who did background work with me on the Jay and Silent Bob reboot in New Orleans. And she didn't have a question. I know that she owns a pig. I'm not sure. I think she's vegan. I'm not sure. Maybe she just eats lots of vegan foods. She has a pig as a pet. But she shared an app that she has suggested to tons of people. Basically, this app is called Is It Vegan? It's a scanner where you scan the barcode on food and it checks every ingredient in the food and it tells you if it's vegan right then and there. So it skips you the Google search that you always have to do when you first go vegan.
Yeah, she did actually mention that she is a vegan, by the way, in response to that. So there you go.
I'm not the app developer, just a random vegan. Oh, wait, no, she did say that. You're right. All right, so Allie, she said, so she is vegan in real life. When I first met her, she was vegetarian, even before I was. And then she went vegan, honestly, probably shortly after you and I did, Ty. And she said, where do you get your protein? Do you miss eating cheese? Do you ever eat meat secretly? How do you even live without pizza? Did you know if you don't eat meat, you'll have a stroke and die in your 40s? Just wondering if you have answers to these questions. Answer them quickly. We already did. Where do you get your protein? Everything. Everywhere that animals get,
yes.
Everywhere that your protein gets their protein from, that's where we get our protein from. Do you miss eating cheese? Nope, because I still eat cheese today. It's just not from dairy. Do you ever eat meat secretly? No. How do you even live without pizza? I still eat pizza, and it's delicious. It's just dairy-free and meat-free pizza. Did you know if you don't eat meat, you'll have a stroke and die in your 40s? No, I didn't, and I don't believe it. So,
the only thing I would say that I don't agree with, I don't think vegan pizza is the same. Unfortunately,
Let's
a
relax.
vegan cheese pizza never hits the same way as a regular cheese pizza because that a lot of times those cheese just doesn't melt the same. That being said, I've found some great pizzas, vegan pizzas that have some amazing toppings. So if you're into toppings, vegan pizza is the way to go. But a plain old cheese pizza, just not the same to me.
Now, even if we went to Pizza Rev,
yeah, even Pizza Rev.
Even if you had, now I know the diet pizzas are not great. But what about the Amy's brand pizzas? Have you had those?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the frozen pizzas and stuff.
I absolutely am. Now that being said, though, if you did want to find a vegan mozzarella that works for you, people could also just make their own pizzas at home, and boom.
Yeah, I do that all the time, and you can make some pretty solid ones. But again, I got to put a lot of toppings on it.
There you go. And you were always the plain pizza kind of guy too.
I was. It's interesting, right? Now I'm throwing spinach and stuff on top.
Ooh,
I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
You spinach on, man. And even if that is the case, maybe I'm just accepting a lower standard of pizza, or maybe not. Like if that is the case for most of you, like if you find that there is one item that just doesn't taste the same way it used to, small sacrifice to make, right?
Definitely. Very small sacrifice.
All right. My fiance asked, what food do you miss the most that you don't eat now? What are some vegan brands? Where do you shop?
Well, you got a fiance?
Yeah. I just traded a gold pig for her last week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, solid gold. So, what food do I miss the most that I don't eat now? Buffalo wings, which is ironic because it was the most disgusting food I ever ate. But like, if I'm out and I'm drunk and I smell buffalo wings, like they still, I guess what pizza is for you, that's what buffalo wings are for me. Like I will always, my mouth will always water no matter how gross I know it is. But then again, I still do eat buffalo wings and tenders now. They're just not made of chicken. And
see, that's funny because I actually prefer vegan wings. I find there's no mess. You can eat the whole thing. Like it's got that same delicious flavor for me.
For me, it's tough to eat the wooden stick that they serve it on, but I get through it.
Not if you go to the Purple Elephant.
Wait, are you serious or no?
They don't have a stick in it. You just eat the whole thing.
Oh, get the fuck out of here! Really?
Yeah, they found a way to just make it so that like the breading holds it up.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
good.
so those are great. I think for me it's the accessibility. Like because good vegan drumsticks, like buffalo drumsticks, are still pretty pricey right
They
now.
are.
And it's not like you're ever gonna have a 25-cent wing night, but I'll piggyback that into my next one. What are some vegan brands? You know what's funny? I can only name the dairy ones off the top of my head. But there's Daya, Amy's has a lot of vegan friendly stuff. I can't name there's Tofuti.
Follow your heart.
What are those fucking Follow Your Heart? What are the guys with the mustaches?
Oh,
They do like the mac and cheese.
Yeah, Upton? Is it Upton?
Upton Sinclair, maybe.
Oh god, no, I can't remember.
But I'll go into that. Where do you shop? So honestly, I don't want to say like I shop at this brand of store and say every version of that store has like really good vegan options. It's really like a niche thing. Like you got to be like, yo, I love the Stop and Shop over in Lake Grove, or I like the this store over in this town. No two stores will ever have the same.
I mean, I find
stuff.
most of them have the vast majority of the same stuff.
I'm telling you, dude, there's a Stop and Shop out by me that has like amazing an amazing vegan selection that I haven't seen at other Stop and Shops.
I feel like mine has an amazing selection.
What if it just turns out that it is like every Stop and Shop?
That'd be hilarious.
But then I also go to Aldi, which Aldi, for every reason, is a great place to shop, price-wise and product-wise, for what you're getting. You have some name brand stuff. You have some off-name brand stuff that's comparable. And they actually do have a lot of really, really great vegan options that are pretty affordable. That blew me away because, Aldi isn't really the place that you go to find, like, the big brands or anything like that. But like here they are, serving up tenders and meatless meatballs and spicy meatless meatballs and, veggie burgers and, chicken patties and all this other stuff. They even have like vegan cheese. They have vegan dips. They have vegan queso dip. So Aldi is the sleeper.
My hot take is that all their vegan products suck. I hate them all,
and I don't. So those are our conflicting hot takes
yes.
To each other. What about you? What are you already mentioned? Pizza is like the big food you don't miss. Where do you shop for your food, Ty?
Whole Foods has probably the biggest selection of vegan products, though it is expensive. I also shop at Trader Joe's and Stop and Shop, and there's a kind of it's not close to me, but it's on Long Island. It's called Cornucopia. They have a ton of vegan options as well.
Oh yes, on the South Shore by Sayville.
Yes,
in Sayville.
Yep.
All right. So, my friend Tony, how long does it take before you get vegan powers? We mentioned usually it's at the beginning, but if not, if you're a good vegan, usually in 6 months you'll get a membership card in the mail. My friend Mindy said, I got one. Like one question. How? I need meat and cheese. Really a rhetorical question. I wanted to make you laugh. Ha 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 ha. So, I mean, how we pretty much answered that throughout the entire podcast about why we went vegan, and it's easy to stay plant-based or vegan because I honestly just find that shit gross now. Like now, since I've gotten tired of answering all the questions, if you were to be like, oh, why are you vegan? Like, it's as simple as just saying like, oh, I think that stuff's gross. Because like if somebody says I don't like tomatoes, you never go like, what? You don't eat tomatoes? You just go, oh, they think tomatoes are gross. That's it. So that's what I do now with meat. I'm just like, no, it's gross to me. I don't like it. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just easier than you think. It's a lot easier than you think. I feel like I should be the poster child for veganism because I was literally the guy who ate meat in every meal. Like you talked about people earlier. I could not eat a meal without meat. I could not eat a meal without dairy. I didn't eat spinach. I didn't eat tomatoes. I didn't eat almost any vegetable or fruit you can imagine. Besides potatoes and bananas would be the only ones I really ate. So if I can go vegan and enjoy all this food, anybody can.
Yeah, and that goes into this whole like, I need meat and cheese thought, which a lot of people do. And, they have that sentiment. And I know they don't like mean it this way, but like I've heard it so many times now that it just kind of pisses me off. Not that specifically, not at you, Mindy, But there are people who are like, oh, you're vegan. I could never do that. I love blank too much.
Yep.
I love chicken too much. I love fish too much. No one ever fucking says fish. I love cheese too much. Like it's
sushi.
It's
I love sushi.
I love sushi too much. And guess what? I love sushi too. You have any idea how many vegetable rolls they have at a bunch of places?
Yo, sweet potato rolls hit. Let me tell you.
Oh, they do. They do. Those sweet potato rolls. Those fucking for me, the peanut avocado rolls slap.
Ooh.
Get a little bit of inari, stuffed tofu pockets with rice. It's a good time. I go to all you can eat sushi. I don't fuck around. So yeah, I mean, you think you need meat and cheese, but when really you just might need something that's meat-like and cheese-like, because that's what it reminds you of. Like maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe it goes back to your childhood. For me, my big catharsis was always making sandwiches. And guess what? I can still make sandwiches now as a means of self-medicating. And, and I don't have to have meat and dairy products to do it. All right. My friend Jay, who, I don't even know how I fucking met you. This was another Jay and Silent Bob thing. Jay, he said, does your mouth water the entire time you mow the yard? First off, super original question. The second one is I can't afford a yard because I've been beaten down by the system. No, I know it's a classic joke about vegans and everything like that. Once again, like as we've gone through in this podcast, we don't only eat vegetables all the time. It's not a salad for every single meal. In reality, if you're a person who considers yourself a carnivore, which most people aren't, they're just herbivore. They're just omnivores. They eat a little of everything. But if you consider yourself a true carnivore, like all you eat is meat, you actually have a much more limited diet than I do. I can eat so much more than somebody who limits their stuff to meat and cheese.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer.
Yeah, so I'm not only eating vegetables all the time. Once again, you look at me and you could you could probably see that. I'm not exactly pounding down the kale and getting shredded abs. So no, not the entire. Although I do love the smell of fresh cut grass, unrelated to a hunger thing. All right, my friend Frankie, his question: you vegan? Yes. All right, my friend Irizahira, she says, why is the food so freaking expensive? Ty, take it away. You kind of already answered it before, though.
Well, it's about supply and demand, and a lot of these vegan alternatives are becoming more in demand, but we're not there yet. Obviously the vast majority of the population eats meat and dairy, so that's where things are cheaper. But as we raise the awareness of veganism and get more people to eat that stuff, you can see the prices dropping. Beyond Meats has talked about dropping their prices a lot. Just actually dropped the price on their Just eggs. So, we're starting to see actually.
You're damn right they did. Oh,
yeah. They did. It's like they're starting to drop their prices, and that's huge. But again, if you don't want to spend a lot of money and you want to eat healthy and be vegan, you can just eat potatoes, legumes, beans, produce. You can do a really good food shopping for $30 at Trader Joe's for like a week. So, don't be afraid to do that. But if you want the vegan alternatives, unfortunately, until the demand is high enough, they will be a little more expensive.
And it's an interesting thing you say about the demand, because there are a lot of stores who are releasing their own store brand vegan alternatives, like meat alternatives. Like I mentioned, the incredible, exalted, incomparable Aldi, the head of all supermarket chains.
Boo!
Boo, shut the fuck up. But like Aldi's one of the ones that has their own store brands. Lots of places have their own store brands. So, I am seeing like there are other options. Oh, Sweet Earth is another great option.
They are.
But honestly, guys, like there are people who are, I don't want to say more dedicated than us, but like more dedicated to, I guess, spreading the message and educating than we are right now. So like, don't be afraid to Google like top vegan this, top vegan that. There are so many listicles that people have written. That's how I found out Oreos are vegan. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Oreos in America are vegan.
There's also there's an alternative for almost anything. So maybe you can't get it at a store, but you can find it somewhere. There's a lot of people who make their own vegan products and ship it. Like I found a guy who makes vegan fried chicken down south, and he does pre-orders for it and will ship it out to you, and it's fucking awesome. So if that's like what you want, you can find it. So it's a simple.
Send me that link.
I will. It's as simple as jumping on Google and finding it. Especially if you're not worried about spending a little bit extra for certain things, you can find it. Black and white cookies, fried chicken, lobster rolls. You can find it all. So it's just a matter of doing a little research.
Yeah, and if you are the kind of person who attaches memories to certain types of food, just know that you can still have those same memories with similar food that you may actually enjoy a little more now. Knowing, because the data's out there. You know that red meat isn't healthy for you in mass quantities. You know that dairy isn't good for you. Like the reason that people are lactose intolerant is because we're not supposed to have dairy from other animals. We're just not. And, now it's so easy. I've heard, but I need to put butter on everything. There's fucking vegetable oil butter. Like there's so many options. There's, I don't want to have the soy. I don't want to have the processed soy. A, all the meat you're eating is processed way worse than that. And B, you don't have to just eat tofu for everything. So find the other stuff. Find your tempeh, find your seitan, find your beans, find your legumes. There's so many other protein options out there.
So many. I eat tofu, but I don't eat it that often, to be honest. I feel like everyone's like, all you do is eat tofu.
Well, yeah.
I'm like, I maybe eat it once every other week. Like, it's like not that often.
Yeah, and tofu, like anything else, like you said, you could do a killer produce shopping for $30 at Trader Joe's or
Aldi.
$17 at Aldi. And I'm kidding. But really, it's just about how you cook the food. If you're a good cook, doesn't matter. You can make anything taste good.
Throw some adobo on that bitch, Get some seasoning on there. It'll taste good.
Seriously. I mean, this weekend when we were up in the country barbecuing, Dee came up with this new recipe for zucchini and putting it on the grill, and like her father could not stop eating it.
Yeah, see, like even like vegan burgers, like my girlfriend will take like the Beyond Burger or like something comparable, and she'll actually like take it apart. She'll put like garlic in it. She'll put some like adobo, some other seasonings, like really like give it a lot of flavor. Then reform the patties and cook it up that way. So you're not just eating like just that patty as it came to you. You can actually get like some real flavor in there and cook it how you want. You could throw some vegan cheese on, vegan bacon. Like you can do it however you want. The barbecue sauce, like you can make it what you like. So again, yeah, like you said, you can cook it how you want. Really get some nice flavor on it.
Yeah, and I mean, you'll find that, like, even in just your regular meat diets, you do have to do a good amount of seasoning. Otherwise, your food's just not going to taste good. It's going to taste pretty bland. So, keep that in mind. And, like I said, I didn't want any of this to come off as preachy. I'm sure some of it did. And I know it's rough to hear that because even as a vegan, I know that a lot of vegans can be fucking obnoxious. I have left the vegan groups because some of them were too radical, even for me. I don't want to, cast anyone out. I'm not the guy who's going to say, it's great Anthony Bourdain killed himself because he said some shit about vegans. Like, that's not who we are. We're supposed to be the people who value all life. And, and it's as simple as that. And if, and if you can even just do one day of not eating meat and see how it affects you, or, and just, try. Just try something new. Now's the time to do it. But I would say, we were talking about the movie Okja. Definitely watch this movie. It doesn't beat you over the head with the, with the whole, you got to go plant-based, blah, blah, blah. But it does expose some harsh truths about the meat industry. And if you want more info, there are plenty of documentaries. I'll leave links to them in our show notes. I'll leave the info for those apps, the Happy Cow app that Ty mentioned, the Is It Vegan scanner app that my friend Sadie mentioned.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say before we close out, Mr. T?
No, I just want to say Okja is a really fun, not fun film. It's a good film. It has some fun moments. It's very emotional. I think Bong Joon-ho is a fantastic director, and he likes to give social commentary. So that's what you get with all of his films. It is a Netflix original, so you can watch it on Netflix anytime. Definitely check it out.
I endorse it 100% as well. In the meantime, in between time, we're going to be writing out on the song No Beef by DISL Automatic. It is a hardcore rap song about being vegan that I found on YouTube. I'll leave a link in the show notes. In the meantime, you can listen to us and rate and review us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. You can find us on Twitter at PolitiPopPod. Find us on Instagram at PolitiPopPodcast. Email us at politipopcast@gmail.com. Find our show notes and sources at politipoppodcast.wordpress.com. Special thanks to you, the listeners, to all the people who submitted their questions, whether they were, joking or legitimately asking. We really appreciated it. We love that interaction. Thanks for everybody who has liked the new Facebook page that we have. You can find us, the PolitiPop Podcast, on Facebook. And, like I said, we're on a lot of different podcatchers right now, so go listen to us, rate and review us, let us know what you think. And as always, special thanks to Antonia Little for logo design. And remember, no matter what you're listening to, no matter what you're watching, no matter what you're reading, never stop learning, never stop thinking, and always remember to read between the lines.
I ain't needing no beef, cause you know that I'm a vegan. I ain't needing no beef, compassion's what I believe in. I ain't needing no beef, cause you know that I'm a vegan. I ain't needing no beef, no, my food was never screaming. I ain't eating no beef, no pork, no fish, no chicken. Now people think I'm tripping cause I ain't eating no dairy, no eggs, but I stay well fed off the fruits and the veg cause I care about the animals and the environment. I care about my health. If it ain't vegan, I ain't buying it. I care about the planet. If it doesn't, we go die with it. People hating veganism without even trying it. It is not a diet.
All right, cool. Well, I don't have anything either. So let's get into it. Okja, motherfuckers. Sorry, people.
I was like,
parked outside.
oh shit.
Here.
Is there a part that I don't know about?
Open the fucking door.
All right, Ty, you're in charge of the podcast now. Oh, fuck.
You're recording a podcast? Ty, go on without me, please.
You are the
Tell them about the
resistance.
super pig. Oh my god. What was I fucking doing? Tonight, Okja, I think,
I
motherfucker.
heard that. God damn. That was the loudest beep of a car in history. Holy fuck. Went through your soundproof fucking room, man.
Jesus Christ.
I think you were just saying there was no housekeeping.
Oh yeah, there is no housekeeping. Yeah, and the other, what does yeah end on? That's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, dude, I had to take so many of those out of the last podcast, and so many were still left in. All right, so they're protecting Mija too. Awesome. So I'll read one of mine first. I said, what are some?
Okay, cool.
I said, what are some questions you have about veganism?
And seen or no?
Yes.
Okay.